Welcome to At His Feet podcast for the day. We are grateful that we have another opportunity to have this conversation. And our today's conversation is actually on the existence of God. You know, we both have a burden to explain how reality is shaped. This we will do today by looking at the both sides, both the theism and atheism. If we must do that, we must do it with respect to each other and only allow facts to be the judgment standard, not the tone, the sound, and or aggression. The reason we are here is to have a sober discussion on God's existence with an aim to help our viewers to appreciate the biblical position that God exists outside of space, time, and matter in relation to the alternative reasoning against the same. And to help us have this discussion today, we have an amazing panel of three brothers and one sister. I want to bring in this issue of creation. Maybe as we near the end. And now, maybe just a bit. I know that the bit of creation has been, or the beginnings, has been a big topic in the existence of God. And maybe I want to start by mentioning three things. You know, when it comes to creation, it is either three options: either that it created itself, and or it existed infinitely, or it was created. So I don't know what is your position, and then we can respond to, or if you have a fifth or seventh option.
So about existence of matter, I normally choose to believe in the. I am more biased toward the scientific explanation we have, which would be the Big Bang. As he said, it's also very counterintuitive for me. You know, the issue of singularity, that all matters were condensed together. It's not something I can process in my mind.
Yeah.
But that is what the evidence says. But even that would not still explain the origin, because the question people normally ask, what was there before the Big Bang? What was there before? So it does not explain the origin. It just explains the origin, the beginning of this expansion process, but does not explain what was there before that. So that is one. But on that one, I don't know. The honest position is I don't know how things came to be. I don't know. We have explanations. They're not actually explanations. They are scientific. They are theories from the science.
Okay.
The big key one being the Big Bang, theory, and of course with life, biogenesis and evolution. That is the evidence. That's the best we have so far.
It's not the best. It's one among the theories. It's one we have chosen.
No, you see,
scientifically,
it's the best. So scientifically, it's what we have as the best explanation. It could be wrong. I'm not saying this is the gospel. It could be wrong, but it's the best explanation. So this is a dark area. This is a gray area where we don't have much information. Anything I do from here would be speculation.
That is true. Maybe Maurice, I really like where you are, and I will be bringing you now to the discussions. So I like the bit, actually it is the best, Big Bang is the best scientifically, but then it brings that bit of what you are saying, you don't know what happened then.
Yeah.
Now when Christians come and say, oh, that one actually is supported by the scriptures, because God spoke. So God is the one who spoke, and maybe it followed the experiences of the Big Bang. Why are you refusing that?
That's called post. What you are very good.
That's God of the gaps.
Yeah. No, but there is something rationalization. Where
after the fact.
Yeah, this is where
after the fact.
You start with the conclusion.
Yes.
And then, because ideally, if the Bible is the one telling us how things came to be, we would discover Big Bang in the Bible. Yeah, it would be the one telling us. But the fact that you see, and this is the problem with the Christianity. I told you the stance is better because it keeps changing. The problem that religions have, especially the Abrahamic religion, is that there are things they cannot change. They cannot change the doctrinal facts, even when evidence is glaring to the contrary. So what they do is they try to rationalize and merge two things that are immiscible, like water and oil. So if you follow the Bible, the world from creation cannot be more than 10,000 years old. And actually, it's written there because they give you can do calculations from Adam. He had his son.
Yeah.
He died after 5 years. It gives a very good chronology. So you can estimate up to the character Abraham. It was about 2,000 years, and then up to Jesus, it was another 2,000 years, and then of course we are 2,000 years after Jesus. So that's 6,000 years, maximum 10,000. We have fossils that are over millions and millions of years old. We have even plants, a tree, I think is in Buta, that has, it's normally like I don't remember the name, but it has roots. It's normally like a forest, but it's one plant that is connected to other. It's been there they have dated it for over 7,000 to 8,000 years.
Using science.
Yeah, using science, of course.
Which maybe after some time, they might discover that they were actually wrong.
Yeah, but it's the best explanation as of now. As of now.
Okay, now let me bring...
That's the contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest contradiction between science and the Christian story is timeline. It's a timeline. This Christian story is around 10,000 plus.
And you think it's millions.
No, yeah, the world is, the planet is about 4
But
billion.
why are
plus.
you starting the creation story at the Adamic level? Why are we starting it only at... Why are we interpreting the word in the beginning was and give it the time of the years for Adam?
So the only
Why
then,
can't you...
The argument then you can make there is there was millions of years between creation of the earth and creation of humans. That's the argument you make. And still that wouldn't hold because we know human beings have been there, our species has been there for about 300,000 years ago. So that's how old our species is, human beings. So even if you use that, you can make the argument, you can make a very good rebuttal against Big Bang. You can, not a rebuttal per se, but you can merge the two. But then when it comes to origin of life, it becomes difficult because we know life is about 300,000 years plus for human beings, and the other life has been there for millions. So if we start from Adam to now, that's about 7,000 years. So the problem with life, how old life human being have been on this earth becomes a problem. But you can make a good argument for the merging of creation theory and Big Bang if you use that argument that you're trying to use.
Anyone coming on creation story?
Just a question. According to the atheists, does human history begin with Adam?
No. No. Adam is a character that, like Wikikui had Wikoya and Moby.
Yes,
No, he means human beings.
Human beings.
Yeah.
The history of human beings, does it begin with Adam?
No, human beings are a process of evolution of humans.
Whatever it is, they must have one that began it.
Maybe I'm not getting the question.
Human beings, the history of human beings, did it begin with a character called Adam and Eve?
No, there was no one character called Adam and Eve that started.
Or they not even exist?
No. There was no... Human beings evolved from other apes. We are all a collection of apes. We are the most advanced ape. Okay,
But
at least we like to think ourselves like that. But
I think you mentioned that Adam.
I'm trying to
As a
dissuade
fictitious
the argument
character.
of the creation.
Yes,
Yeah.
you had something?
Yeah, now I have many things.
Okay, say all the many things.
So let's begin with the issue of creation and how creation works, or the universe. Let's call it the universe. We don't want to special plead and argue that it is creation. For all that there is now, we can just say the universe is. Okay. But the Christian, and to be fair, on your question you asked why can't we say God is what is before the Big Bang, that is the God of the gaps argument. And the problem with the God of the gaps argument is that if you use God to fill in the gaps that you don't know, the more you know, the lesser God fits into the picture. You see? So if, for example, we discover from what is this kind of physics, quantum physics, that we can explain something before Planck time, that is the boundary of the Big Bang. If we discover from quantum physics that we can explain that, then God has to move back a little bit more. But you will realize that the Christian is not arguing that. The argument from the universe is taking both philosophical understanding and the evidences that we are now adducing from science, and to say that one thing we know is that the universe began to exist. Now, that is not even a Christian claim. It is not a Muslim claim. It is not a religious claim. It is now considered, even in scientific in circles, for example, that the universe actually did begin to exist.
I don't think
Because
that's science.
it is science, because at the boundary of Planck time, we have a singularity, which in essence, if you use the calculations that they use, is nothing. So what you have is nothing, then a boundary, and then you have the explosion of the Big Bang, okay? So you have something, and then you have nothing. So at this boundary, the universe begins to exist. And that is, it's not even even in scientific circles, it's not an extraordinary claim, because one could still agree that at this boundary, the universe, or what we are calling matter, and everything begins to exist before there was nothing. But also we have philosophical arguments for why the universe began to exist. And think about, for example, the impossibility of an eternal past. If the universe has existed eternally, we would not arrive at the moment now.
Why?
Well, because you cannot count from negative infinity up to now. Can you?
But we are here now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why the universe cannot be eternally in the past.
Will not have been infinite.
I don't get the logic in that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm
Would
not
you
the
count?
smartest.
Let's use math. Let's begin from negative infinity. Okay? If negative infinity is a defined point, how would you
If it's
count?
defined point, it cannot be infinity.
Exactly. Which is why we can't land at now.
How will we get here?
Or rather, you cannot count backwards again from today and get to the end of the
So
past.
prorated for fast forward. Can we have infinity forward?
Yes. The infinite, no, what happens is that the infinity forward is a potential. We can come close. We can keep counting. Keep counting, keep counting. We can have what is called a potential infinity, but never get to it. So that life, we keep counting days, we get to 1 billion. I don't know after 1 billion what we have, 1 trillion. After 1 trillion, we have
Light years.
whatever. All those number of days, you can have metric time into infinity. But remember, you will never get there. You can only come close. And that's why, in fact, when you think about when we were doing the math on infinity, you just limit it as you approach infinity. You never get to infinity. The problem is, now is the end of the past. At this point, the past has ended. And because the past has ended, then it means we have an actual finite past that has ended at this point. So you cannot actually have an infinite past. And so for those two reasons, now notice I have given a philosophical argument for the lack of the infiniteness of the past, but also
The argument
scientific.
is the past is finite.
Yes, the past cannot be infinite.
So if it's, sorry to belabor that point.
No,
Yes.
that's okay.
If past is finite, that means
Finite.
it ends at some point.
Yes, it ends
So
at
it
now.
began at some point.
At that point it begins.
Mm.
What was there that yesterday?
Precisely. Now that's the question we are trying to
Because if you
answer.
say it ends last year, then there was.
But remember, remember what we are trying to find out is the universe. And when we talk about the universe, for example, in science, we are talking about space. And space is space. Like you have the planets there and everything. You have time. And you have matter. That's what the universe, when we talk about the universe beginning to exist in science, we are talking about all those things. So that there was no space. You know, people think about there was a thing here and here is empty space. There was no space. There was
That's
no
very hard to process it.
Exactly. The best way to think about it is
That's
like a
okay.
balloon. You see a balloon. So think about the surface of the balloon as the universe. Okay? When it is collapsed, if you could collapse it up to the atomic level, small, you would still have the balloon, but it is nothing, you know? Then you start blowing in it, it expands, isn't it? Now remember what is expanding. It's the universe. the planets and matter and everything is the surface, and space is being created inside as it expands. So it's not as if you had space and it is expanding into space. Space is being created as the universe expands. You understand that?
Yes.
So, and that's why I'm saying, even scientifically, you have a beginning point. Now, there's a theory in science, it's called the Bode-Guth-Vilenkin theorem. It says for any expanding universe, they have actually shown that it cannot be eternally existent in the past. Because it is expanding, it is using up energy. You understand that? Because it is expanding, it is using up energy. And the more it is expanding, the more energy it is using. But we already know that energy is not infinite. Again, we come, another reason why the universe is not eternal, second law of thermodynamics. It tells us that we are losing useful energy in the universe. So, for example, you know uraniums, you know those macaques of half-life and everything. We are losing useful energy, and we are going to get to a state where the energy we'll have is useless. It's called an entropy state. Now, again, if the universe is infinite in the past, then we would have gotten to the end of the half-life, isn't it? Because we would have infinite time, so we wouldn't have useful energy. Now, you see, with all those three things, we can already have one argument that the universe is not eternal. It came to exist. Now, notice what we are not saying. We are not saying it was created. As he said, it could be the case that it just happened by chance, right? But the other thing that we know is that anything that begins to exist has a cause. It doesn't have to be a material cause. It doesn't have to be God. It could be anything that caused it. But you show me anything that you know that began to exist without a cause. Now, notice what we are not saying. We are not saying that everything has a cause. There are things that could not have causes. But if it begins to exist, it has a cause.
Yeah.
So then the question we need to ask ourselves is, what then is the cause of the universe? Now, there are some characteristics of the cause of the universe that we would need to have. Because the universe encompasses all the material world that we know, then the cause of the universe has to be immaterial. We are not saying what it is. But if it has matter, then it was part of the universe. It began to exist. Yeah. So the cause of it has to be immaterial. It could be quantum. For all that there is, quantum is not material, isn't it? There are those particles just jumping. It is immaterial. But then also this cause has to be timeless. Because remember, with the beginning of the universe is also the beginning of time. So this cause has to be timeless. But it also has to be spaceless. Because remember, space is coming to existence. It is not there. It also has to be incredibly powerful. Why? To cause such a huge and powerful universe to exist. Remember, we are just deducing from logic. We are not making any claim. But the other thing is has to be personal. It has to decide that at this point, the universe will begin.
Why does it have to decide if it can just be random?
Well, because before that, suns, let's not use before that, because when it comes to time, the language of before time is very complicated. So philosophers have come up with a word called suns. It just means logically prior, okay? Not necessarily metrically prior, okay? So suns, the creation, there was no universe. Then at a certain point, there's a universe. So that, because we are already from the Big Bang, we have already calculated it back to about 14 billion years ago. Why not 16? You see, at
Because
that
if
point...
it was 16, then
yes.
you'd ask why not 14?
You see the point we are making then? At that point of willing to cause, whatever that is, that willing to cause, that thing, being, matter, whatever, has to have a will to cause it. Now, when you think about the characteristics of whatever we've talked about, are very powerful, timeless, immaterial, spaceless, and personal being, it comes very close to what we are discussing as God. It might not be the Christian God for now, isn't it? By all means, it could be a deist God. It could be the God of the Hindus. But at least what we have successfully done is that we have shown that atheism is wrong. Because if there is such a being, spaceless, immaterial, timeless, with a will, meaning it is personal, then we have come very close to the definition of who God is. And so now, with, of course, time fails us, we could go into other evidences of why the Christian God, but there we would argue again, that is from cosmology. We can argue from morality, teleology, design and everything. And then we come to the evidence of what happens to the man called Jesus. Okay? And this is where we go to the evidence for the resurrection. Again, you can't build a case for why Jesus rose from the dead, and not necessarily from the Bible. And where we land ourselves then is the same thing that the Bible has been saying seems to be the same place we are arriving, even from the evidences that we have, or at least from what we think is good evidence. Now, remember I said it doesn't have to convince everyone. For so long as we think we have built a good case for why it is consistent and sensible to believe that God created the universe.
Oh, great! I think that's good. And so, one, we have come to a point that God, or you using your words, close to the God we are describing,
Yes,
created the universe. Now maybe some few comments. We want to start with Morris. Yeah.
That's a very good expansion of what we call the cosmological argument.
argument, yes.
So you see, there's a lot of presupposition, a lot of assumptions in that, especially the one I barely can pick is when you say it has to be personal and willing. That's a claim that you have to demonstrate. I could actually concede on the other. I'm not conceding, but I could give you the benefit of the doubt on the other. There's this beginning. It happened. It had a start. But then when you say it's personal, and it's personal and it's willing, that one you have to demonstrate, because it could just be random. You could be right 90%, and then it could just be a random process. So you're making a leap. You're making logical sense until it comes now to when you say it's personal, and you're giving it an age and character. You're calling it age. It could just be a random process, a random quantum process.
Incidentally, if you are willing to grant everything else apart from the being personal, I am also okay.
No,
because
personal,
remember I
personal
said,
and willing.
yes, remember I said the argument for God is not a one size fits all. I'm not saying that the cosmological argument is alone complete in arguing for God. I will use the cosmological argument, but for personality, the better argument to use is the moral argument.
But then how do you link the two?
Well, because since they are both arguments for a necessary being, then I take what I have from cosmology, what I have from design, what I have from morality. When I put together, I will have a powerful, willing, personal, very moral or good, and what else have I jumped? Spaceless, timeless, and all those things. So that then what I have arrived at, the best explanation for everything we see in the universe. That is how the universe came to exist, cosmology, how we perceive design in the universe, teleology, the fact that there is morality, moral values and duties. When I put all these things together, because they are part of the universe, then God becomes the best explanation for why we have all these things together rather than nothing. So it's a cumulative case.
Oh, great! So I think that's a very good place to put this up. Now I want us to just, I don't know which camera should we look at. Looking at this camera here, and we are talking to millions of people who are watching today, and they want to grasp from our discussion. What should they pick up? What should they take home? How should they live their lives with this kind of conversation? So I want to start with Linsa, then I go to Maurice, and then Jared, and then we finish with Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much for the moment again. So to the viewers out there, with the broader discussions and the evidences shared, well, we are likely to know that the superiority of the superiority God or the superiority being that is presented here is very powerful. That is why even in the creation and the beginning of creation, he spoke. I mean, he created the world through speaking. So he breathed out, meaning the reason that is how he created. So let us trust in the main purpose of the superior being, uh, sharing. I mean, sharing with us the bigger picture of the complexity of creation and all that is in it. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, Maurice.
Okay.
It is that. Yes.
Thank you very much, the AIC team. It's a privilege to be here. It's also very good to see that people out there are willing to have this kind of conversation, because the bottom line is nobody has the truth. We have to keep looking for the truth, and I believe such discourse and conversations are the one that are going to lead to discovery of what could be the truth. The process also could lead us to believing more true things and less false things in the future. What should be your take home? Truth and evidence. That would be my case. I think it's, as I said, there are people who have not rationalized their beliefs, not just in religion, in so many things. It's very important that you interrogate your beliefs to make sure that they are. The question is, are they true? They could be comforting, they could be nice, but are they true? And that's the process. That's the question we are trying to respond. If they, and for here, we are defining truth as that which corresponds to the reality. Thank you very much. I have to say the argument for cosmological does not hold, because it's a proof that the universe has a beginning, but it's not a proof that there is a God. But we will have that discussion sometimes later. But otherwise, thank you very much. I'm privileged to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I need to say thank you so much, Maurice, for once again for accepting to be here with us and accepting to be here with these theologians. And indeed, you are not a very your arguments are not very easy to crack. And I pray that the Lord will give us more time to have this conversation.
Clearly, you guys prayed enough.
Yes.
No, you made our work quite easy.
Yeah.
Because when you said that there is no something which you can define, that was very easy for us, because we have all the everything to demonstrate. Anyway, I like very much first of all, the spirit in which this discussion has been held. That was very, 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 very good. I'm sure the viewers, wherever they are, they've enjoyed it. But for this discussion, I don't think it is our task to prove that God exists. That we can, in fact, strictly speaking, human beings cannot prove that God exists. God himself has revealed himself to us that indeed he exists. Of course, there are some gaps or some areas we cannot understand. It's understandable. The God who created the universe, to think that all his powerfulness, his knowledge, that there's any human being who can condense it in his mind, it's inconceivable. It cannot work. And as I said at some stage, that in life, we do not have, first of all, to individually investigate everything before we believe in it. We need to have an element of faith to organize our lives, for us to live. Others will not live. If for everything we do, for every food I eat, I go to a restaurant, I must investigate. So where was it planted? Who cooked it? What kind of water did he use? And cooking oil? It's practically impossible. We need some element of faith. And that's how we live our lives. When it comes to things of God, it's not just a matter of a leap in the darkness. God has given us sufficient evidence as far as our minds can comprehend to show us that indeed he exists. And maybe with time, we might revisit this. We can adduce evidence upon evidence. Some of it have been touched here about the cosmological theory, the teleological ontology, all those. We have just touched them in passing, on passing. But with time, we might reduce enough evidence. But that will not be, therefore, proving the existence of God. God has proven himself that he exists. Santi.
Great. Thank you so much, Brother Jared, for even finding time to be here as well. Yes, Mark.
Mine is also to say thank you to the AIC team. I'm indeed grateful for the opportunity just to come and have this discourse. Also, thank you to Maurice. I know sometimes people are not willing to come out and just, speak their mind on these issues. And I think for me, the encouragement, especially to the Christians out there, is that we need to have these conversations. Reach out to your neighbor, to the person who doesn't believe, and instead of seeing them as an enemy, invite them in and have an opportunity to discuss. Even if they will not believe, even if they will not agree with you, at least we still have the responsibility to share this truth and for people to make up their mind. And let's remember, let's put evidence at its rightful place. God has not left us just at the mercy of evidence, and yet evidence is immensely, immensely important. So may the Lord bless you and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you so much. Amen. Amen. Such a wonderful time. Thank you so much, panelists, for finding time to be here today. It's always at his feet podcast at AC Milimani, the place where we are all looking for the truth. And we hope that we've captured the truth. So for the Christians, I hope you have a reason to continue being Christians. And I hope maybe our discussion here has also touched non-Christians to have a reason to believe in the Lord. So thank you so much. Until next time, looking forward to meeting you at His Feet podcast for more. God bless you and thank you.